Okay, we're on the record. So this is the special meeting of the Economic Development Commission on Thursday, June 4th, 2020. It is now 9:11 a.m. My name is Mark Barnhart. I'm the Director of Community Economic Development. I will call a roll. I believe we have on the call Commissioners Don Peterson and Elise Fatherly. We have Recording Secretary Gretchen Gerthner and Beverly Ballas representing the Fairfield Chamber of Commerce. Is there anyone else on the call at this time? Okay. So we will not be able to consider and act upon the minutes from our prior two meetings, so that'll have to roll over to our next one. Hopefully we'll be able to do that in person. That is planned for July, so I'll send that information out to all of you. I just wanted to briefly update the Commission on our response to the global pandemic and the reopening plan. As you know, the first Select Woman had established a business reopening task force, which does include representation from my office and other permitting and regulatory agencies here in town, as well as some input as well from the Chamber of Commerce, Beverly Ballas. We have established a permit review process and permitting process for to facilitate outdoor dining. As you know, the governor did permit restaurants to reopen for outdoor dining only in late May, and we had a permit process ready to go that is fairly streamlined. I think is as streamlined as it can be. And we waived all permit and application fees associated with that. It's a very short form that they would fill out. The restaurant operator or representative fills out, typically submits to the Planning and Zoning, although I've gotten a few of these applications myself, with a sketch showing the location of the outdoor dining area, showing the proposed layout of furniture within the outdoor dining space, and providing some details as to how that area is delineated, especially those that are located in parking lots. We want to make sure that obviously seated patrons are safe from any vehicular traffic, so usually those entail some form of barrier or stanchions or planters or things of that nature to demarcate the outdoor dining space. And since that has been allowed, we've actually considered and approved 34 locations, 18 of which are locations that were previously not approved for outdoor dining, and 16 were approved previously under our seasonal outdoor dining program and represent an expansion of that footprint. All the applications have been approved to date that we've received, have been approved, and typically within 24 to 48 hours. So again, it's a fairly quick turnaround. The review committee, which is comprised of the fire marshal, the building official, a representative from the health department, the planning and zoning director, and myself, have a standing meeting every day at 3 o'clock. And we review of the applications that we have received and are ready for our consideration. So everything seems to be running pretty smoothly. There seems to be, again, phase two, as far as we know from the governor's plan, would include some limited indoor dining. It is possible without bars, but 50% occupancy, that's what we have been led to believe, but there has been some discussion about maybe accelerating that timetable and permitting it even sooner. So we'll just have to wait and see. Salons and barbershops opened earlier this week. I don't know if you've had any feedback, commission members or Beverly, if you've heard anything from salons and barbershops or from restaurants for that matter, but things appear to be operating pretty smoothly. We held a conference call with with salon operators a few weeks back. Actually, they were supposed to be part of the phase 1 reopening, which got delayed to the consternation of some. But again, with the additional time, everything seems to have run smoothly as far as I know. So again, I open it up if commission members, Don or Elise or Gretchen or Bev, for that matter, if any of you have any thoughts or feedback, or what are you seeing out there from both all those establishments that have been open so far as part of phase 1?
This is Gretchen, Mark. I had my hair cut yesterday.
Yeah, great. I hope to soon have an appointment myself.
Yeah.
Amazing. This is Don. Still pretty much sticking to the old rules. Although Norma did go into ShopRite yesterday to pick a few things up.
Okay. Beverly, have you heard anything from any of the outdoor dining establishments or from salon operators as to how things are going so far?
I haven't, but I can say that at least from Quattro and Aurora's, they've done a great job, and people have been dining there during lunch and dinner. Last weekend, Quattro had quite a few people in the tent in the parking lot, and it all seemed to be running smoothly, but I haven't talked to anyone specifically.
We've had a few complaints here and there. They tend to be isolated, fairly minor, but again, from all indications, those businesses that have chosen to reopen are doing. It has gone smoothly in terms of the initial phase. Hopefully, that will continue. Phase 2, as I mentioned, was to include. Or is scheduled to include things like movie theaters and bowling alleys, as well as restaurants at 50% capacity inside with no bar service. I mean, they're not. You can be seated at the bar, I think, in terms of getting a meal, but they're not intending to have bars operate independently at this time. It also includes gyms and fitness and sports clubs, fitness providers, as well as all personal services such as like tattoo parlors and other dance schools and things of that nature. So earlier this week, we did have a call with gym and fitness providers to just go over the guidance that we had received thus far, solicit their input on that we could then forward to the state's reopening task force. We actually have one of our local fitness providers that was asked to provide some input into some of the draft guidelines that the state is considering. So she was kind enough to forward that to me, and then I forwarded or shared it with the entire group. But again, most businesses are just looking to do the right thing and make sure that they're operating consistent with the guidance both from state and local health officials and ensuring the safety of their staff and their patrons in this whole process. So, most are concerned about just making sure they have, they're operating consistent with that guidance and have adequate supplies of disinfecting wipes and hand sanitizer and personal protective equipment and the like. So we're continuing to work on making sure they have access to those supplies. Did somebody else just join the call? I heard somebody else. Oh, maybe not. So were there any other questions on, that's been our practice, which is to try to talk, as a group collectively with each industry group a couple weeks before they're scheduled to reopen as part of the state's reopening plan, just to make sure we can answer any questions they have, get feedback or any concerns out on the table, identify any ways in which the town can be helpful in assisting them in reopening. And so I think that's generally gone pretty well. So again, I'll be reaching out. It's not quite as robust a group, but talking to some of our other businesses that are part of this second phase, and seeing, again, if they have any questions or concerns or specific suggestions as to ways in which the town can assist them in getting back to operation.
Mark, this is Don.
Any thoughts from folks?
This is Don.
Go ahead, Don.
Phase 2 still scheduled for June 20?
Yes.
Then I had an observation about outdoor dining as, well, not partaking of it, is that driving down the Post Road, I think it was Tuesday evening.
Yep.
It looked like it was places that had it seemed to be utilizing it pretty well, and I would say that it looked like Old Post Tavern had the most spaces between tables.
Yeah. Old Post was one of the locations that had a previously approved outdoor patio space, but asked if they could expand their footprint beyond that to encompass portions of what's actually within both the state and town rights of way. Yeah. That permission was granted. So again, our posture has been to do what we can to help businesses navigate these incredibly challenging times and get them through this, working with them to provide whatever accommodations we can reasonably provide along the way. Any other observations from folks or questions on the overall reopening plan or the town's response? I don't have anything really additional to report on key development sites. I am working with the folks who are developing the Exide property to arrange time for them to either meet or talk to the first select woman to update her as to their plans for the site. I don't expect any formal application to be filed in the immediate future, but I know they're hard at work on looking at options for that site. I will say, we are we're working to put a couple activities or events back on the calendar. June 21st, the town is the summer solstice every year for the last 3 or 4 years. The town's been part of a global celebration of music as part of Make Music Day, and we are planning to participate again this year, a very scaled down version of this event, observing limitations on gathering size and maintaining social distancing protocols, but we are planning to take part in a more limited and more subdued way in Make Music Day on the 21st of June. And then on the 28th, the farmers market returns to the downtown, again with some modified protocols in place, limiting the number of vendors, providing better, more spacing between vendors, one-way pedestrian flow through the site. All of which have been reviewed by the health department and recreation department, who monitors usage on the green, and they're comfortable with the overall plan. So again, as we start to open up or ease restrictions a little bit, we're conscious that, as the health director said, the virus is still within the community. It's still there, but if we take appropriate precautions and maintain these protocols in place, hopefully we can mitigate the risk of further spread. I think the only other thing I wanted to report under other business is we've been working on the Stratfield Village streetscape enhancement project. It's in design. We've completed preliminary design plans. We've shared that with the Stratfield Village Association and with some of the budding business owners. And we're now attempting to schedule a meeting with Connecticut DOT, since Stratfield Road is a state highway. We're hoping, again, we're a little bit behind our initial schedule in terms of when we hope to complete design, but it's obviously been very difficult to do a lot of public outreach and citizen engagement given the COVID, the coronavirus pandemic. But we're hoping to finish our design by the end of the year, calendar year, and then be in construction next year. So I have requested a time extension from the state for our grant, but we've already filed our first reimbursement request with the state for design costs incurred to date. So again, stay tuned for that. And I'll certainly open it up. Beverly, I don't know if you have anything that you would like to report from the Chamber of Commerce, and certainly entertain questions from commissioners.
Not really. We're just in the office answering calls as they come in. But I did have a question. How about sidewalk sales in July?
I wanted to have this conversation with you offline. I think we should talk further. But my and there's nothing secretive about it, but I've told some of the merchants downtown that I still would like to go ahead with Sidewalk Sale that's scheduled for the middle of July. And I think, again, we may be looking at modifying our schedule of activities and events and how we do things. But my initial thought was to limit, the entertainment and other activities that are associated with it. It's mainly a shopping event anyway, so again, we would probably scale back or eliminate completely musical or entertainment or kids activities associated with it. And then I think too, it makes sense for us to limit participation to just Fairfield businesses. I don't know how you think about that and feel about that.
Okay, so we can catch up and talk about details, and when and if we want to start to promote it.
Yeah, I'm sure you've gotten a couple calls. I've gotten a couple calls asking if we could, if they can go ahead. And we want to, again, I think we've taken the posture with retail establishments that outdoor displays are permitted so long as you maintain a safe passage for pedestrians, a corridor for pedestrians to get by. And so, everything we know is it's better to do things outside as much as possible. So I think, again, that applies to retail establishments. If they want to do outdoor displays, that's fine with us. We've talked to planning and zoning, and they've kind of adopted, they've adopted the same, permissive posture as it relates to that.
Okay, well, that's good.
Hey, Mark, it's Elise. I just wanted to ask about testing for our town or state. Do you know do you have any information on any procedures that they might be putting in place, or
in terms of testing for the virus?
Yeah.
We have a couple testing sites that but you still need to have as far as I know, a doctor's note indicating before going to those remote testing sites. There's one on the Tungus Hill shopping plaza in front of docks that's been operating for a while. I don't know if that's not something that I've been closely following in terms of the efforts to increase testing capacity here locally, but I think a lot of that comes from the state through the health department. But I'm happy to get further information for you if you'd like.
Okay. And I also just wanted to add on the social front, I've been having some communications with a group called Courageous Conversations. They normally would meet at Fairfield Library, and they talked about race relations and things of that sort. We've had the police chief come to speak to the group and so forth. And a lot of our conversations now are surrounding somehow providing the police chief with a proposal of, ideas or companies that would assist in diversity training, something that's tailored for our police officers. So it's really in the preliminary stages right now. A lot of the group is just getting together and brainstorming. We're also working in conjunction with our library to provide some anti-racism list of resources for education, and that's been happening really fast. And another group I've been in touch with is the Connecticut Sustainable Council. And they actually had a call recently with this gentleman, Michael Schumann. Not sure if you've heard of him, but he just went over basically what's ahead, considering what's happening with the economy. And he stressed banking local. He stressed really supporting local businesses. So I just wanted to share that with you because
great.
Yeah, he was very adamant about us focusing on investing in our local community, and highly, highly recommend investing in local banks.
Well, we've certainly seen the benefit of that. Those that had struggled to access the PPP loan program, for example, which is all through banks, had a much better experience, at least initially, and I think throughout. Those companies that had a relationship with a local bank or a smaller regional bank, I think uniformly their experience was much more positive than those that were struggling to connect with some of the larger national banking institutions. So I would second that motion. I think a lot of people came to realize what the benefits are going through that process.
Yes.
Please feel free to share any of those materials with me. It sounds very, very interesting. Appreciate it.
Yes, I will. I'll send you the email.
Don, any closing thoughts or anything to add from your end?
Yes, Elise, can you share that with me too? It's Don.
Yes, of course.
I think if you send it to me, Elise, I'll send it out to the whole commission if you don't mind.
Okay, perfect.
And I'm sure Beverly would appreciate that too.
So
yes,
Mark, I had I guess it's more of a planning and zoning question.
Yep.
So I'm trying to understand the process that the PP&D department and commission are going through in terms of public hearings. It seems to me that without a real public hearing where people have a chance to sit in the audience and hear the presentations and possibly see some of the exhibits, that either you sneak around and look at the boards, the whiteboards that are being put up, or occasionally they project them on the screen, and then members of the public can actually come to the microphone and make a comment. It can range from, traffic issues, appearance of the building, noise issues. But I don't know how the public is being accommodated to get involved with some of that, because on the calls there's no way that I know of for public comments to be made. I think they're listen-only mode. So do you have any insight as to that?
Yeah, they did have a public hearing. Planning and Zoning Commission did conduct a public hearing fairly recently. I was on the call. They do have an opportunity to unmute all the callers and allow public comment on it. I think they're struggling too. What they did was compliant with the Public Meeting Act and FOI requirements, but I know that the commission chair wasn't totally satisfied with and I experienced that myself, having participated on the call. You weren't privy to all the exhibits. They were screen sharing information with the commission members, which members of the public who were on the call could not partake in. So while you could hear the discussion, the presentation, the conversation, questions, and there was an opportunity at the end for public comment, there was indeed public comment in the public hearing. I think just the very nature of the fact that there were some exhibits that the commission members were able to view, but the public was not able to follow along because of how the process was set up. The information was all posted online, and you could see it, but they were obviously referring to exhibits in real time that, unless you had access to that screen share, you couldn't see exactly what exhibit they were referring to.
And so,
I think that was a limitation.
You can see
Go ahead, Don.
the exhibit. You can see Attorney Fallon's exhibit, ones that are made by the presenters online.
My understanding is, and I did, I have accessed the application online, and the public hearing was for 78 Uncla Place, so the application was posted, but I don't know if there were additional exhibits that were screen shared or referred to in Attorney Fallon's presentation. For the most part, I think he was referring to stuff that is actually in the application packet. I was referred to that by the Planning and Zoning Director, but in trying to follow along as they were referring to this particular exhibit, it was frustrating because I couldn't see it. They obviously were screen sharing a particular plan sheet or something along those lines, and you had to make some assumptions as to what they were talking about. So I know that following the meeting, the Planning and Zoning team feels that they just need to do better, in terms of making sure that people have a better ability to follow along.
As much as it goes against my grain to slow things down,
I think that's what's going to happen.
that they make a ruling on these things, and the public really hasn't had a legitimate chance to comment on the.
Yeah, I think you're right, Don. I think what I understand is they've kind of will. On those applications they think are certainly those that will engender more interest from the public. They want to make sure that there's more opportunities for the public to follow along and provide feedback and ask questions and provide comments on it. So I do think it's probably going to slow things down from a permitting standpoint until we get back to the point where we're actually able to have meetings in person, which
I guess
could be some time.
While I'm on this subject, it strikes me even when you attend in person, the exhibits are all facing the commissioners, as you would expect, but people in the audience can't see it.
This is true, and I think the recommendation. I know I've been in code review meetings with the planning and zoning staff and the applicant where it's recommended that they do a PowerPoint presentation or deck, which can be exhibited, and then that's shown on a screen that's both visible to the commission members and to the public, but it's not required. So if they have, something on a stand or an easel, obviously they're speaking to the commission or addressing it to the commission. So, but having sat in the audience, I know it's oriented that way toward the commission, so it's very difficult if you're a member of the public sitting in the audience to see that.
Okay, well, that was my comment.
Yeah. Any other closing thoughts? Gretchen, do you have anything to add, or at least any thoughts from you on this or other subjects?
No, I'm fine.
No, I don't. I'm fine.
Good. And if you have a specific question you want me to ask the health director on the testing angle, just shoot me a note, and I'll be happy to get some more information on that for you.
Sure. Thanks.
Well,
any other closing thoughts before I close the meeting?
I would suggest we take a vote on adjourning.
Well, we can't really take a vote on adjourning, but since we don't have a quorum. But I appreciate your thought, and we will adjourn at 9:42. How's that? Thank you all, and I hope you have a great rest of the week, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Mark. Thanks.
Okay,
thank you, guys.
Take care.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.